Hey guys, what's up? Joe, good morning. Coffee. I should go 6 small spoons of coffee, the instant dehydrated shit, then 5 of sugar. Kind of goes up to here with water, hot water. Then I just fill the rest up with half and half. So creamy goodness. It sounds gross. No. All right. It's been a while since I made a fucking video, so definitely need to get back on track. I actually have a list of like video ideas I want to make. There's even a fan that I bought off Walmart that's perfect for your ball sack, you know. That, you know, it costs like $10, but you know, just to be stupid, right? But yeah, I do get ideas for fucking videos, and like, you know, I try to like get to it. It's just that, you know, holidays and personal life and all this other shit, you know, a lot of shit just adds up, and it's just like, oh, it's all good. No excuses, gotta get it going, right? So I gotta make the time for that shit. So now is the day. Basically, what I want to talk to you about today is basically when I edit a video. For the most part, I have a process of what I do before I start editing, right? I don't know if some of you are like fans of like cooking shows. I personally am. One of my favorite cooking shows is The Worst Cooks of America. You know, I think that's just fun. You know, for a while I was really into like the whole Gordon Ramsay thing, but you know, after a while I got tired of him just calling people donkeys and stupid shit like that. It just got old, but for the most part, you know, I do like cooking shows, right? I don't know, it's just my thing. But one thing I learned from like cooking shows, especially from The Worst Cook of in America, is something that they call Za Plas, right? Za Plas is a French word which basically means together, put it in place, you know, basically getting everything ready, get the veggies cooked up, you know, get the ingredients like the water, all that, everything's measured up, is ready to go, right? You ever seen like how the Asians cook with a hot wok? You know, once the fucking pan is hot, they're not there chopping the chicken, they throw the chicken in there, then they turn around and chop the onions. No, everything's ready to go. So once like, you know, the pan is hot, they just throw everything together as needed, but everything's already measured out and is cut and so on and so forth, right? Basically, when I edit, I don't start editing right away usually. For the most part, with me and Paul, the way how we work is that, say I'll go to his house on the day to film, you know, we'll stay there till 3, the latest 5, depending, right? Obviously, he gives me the footage. I come home, and then I start doing what I do, refer to as mise en place, right? Basically, I get everything ready, set up, ready to go for like the following day, so I can just wake up and start editing. So I get like a lot of the shit out of the way first, right? So that's usually what I do first is my mise en place. I get certain things like in order before I start editing, right? And I do that basically to help me edit faster. So when I'm rested the next morning, I can just turn on my computer, open up Premiere Pro, and then start working. And that's pretty much my main goal, which I'm trying to do with when I work with Paul, right? Because all the other shit, it can take up a lot of time, especially when you're trying to create proxies and other crap. Yeah, that shit can take up a lot of time. All right, so to begin with, basically, I've showed you in the previous videos that I always open Premiere Pro. Let me close this. Usually when I open up Premiere Pro, I have a main template project file. Basically everything here, all the sound effects, music, any like animations, you know, images, anything that I usually use consistently, it's all saved here in a main project. So I created like a main project file in Premiere Pro. I dump everything that I use usually in his videos, then I save it, and that's my main project. Every time I open Premiere Pro before I start a project file, I click on this guy. So basically, I got sequences ready to go. I already have all the sound effects here, like, you know, and pretty much anything that I usually use consistently in his videos, the music and all this stuff, you know, it's all here in the main project file, right? So in this case, before I start, I always like go to File, Save As. Obviously, I don't want to like, you know, mess with my the original project file. I got Pause Project File, say New Folder. I don't know, let's just call this a tutorial. Mise en place, whatever. And then pretty much, you know, just rename this Mise en place tutorial. Now I always add like an underscore and a 00 before I you know, hit save. The reason why I do that is because say for whatever reason I'm working on a project, and if that file gets corrupted, you know, and it has to like save it to a new for a new project, right, to not use the old corrupted one. Since I'm starting at 00, I can simply, you know, save a new version of it as 01. You know, so that's basically something that I do to keep things simple, right? Because it does happen. Your file's gonna get corrupted. Something's gonna get fucked up. So you basically numbering it in this manner can help you instead of being like mise en pause or this one's better or mise en pause, don't use the old one, or just something dumb like that. Don't name it, right? Be more organized. It saves you a lot of fucking headaches, right? Open up my folder and save this guy. Boom, there you go. My mise en pause tutorial video is ready to go, right? This is ready to go. Minimize that. I have media encoder ready. Now there is some software that I use to help make my life easier, right? Now for this project that I'm gonna show you, this is for a Leon Lee build that we use, right? And we have like 2 separate days because it was like a 2-day project, right? Now I'm gonna do day 1 just to keep things simple. But in this project folder, as you can see, we have audio, we have footage from 2 different cameras. Usually with audio, the lavalier mic that Paul uses, it creates 2 audio files. However, the second one that usually has a D in it, that one is more of a reduced volume sound, right? So I usually don't use that. So these guys, I can delete them, but because I already have like the good audio files that I use, right? But yeah, you want to keep everything organized. Have the audio separate. If you use multiple cameras, keep them separate. Don't dump it all in one fucking folder, right? This will make your life miserable. If you use one camera, that's one folder. You use the second camera, that's another folder. You got footage from your phone, put that in its own separate folder, right? Do that. Now, this shit, let's delete it. Just ignore that for now. But usually when I start working, before I start messing with, my footage, I have it organized like this, right? I have a software called Pluraleyes, and what this does is basically it syncs up like the audio from the camera mic with your external mic with, in this case, the lavalier mic, right? So in this case, we got the audio folder, which is from the lavalier mic, drop that in there. I got camera 1, drop that in there, and I got camera 2. You want to make sure using this kind of software, you want to like drop it in the right order, right? Because that's going to make a difference, and I'll tell you why in a bit. Pluraleyes, you used to been able to buy it on its own, and unfortunately, you got to have an account with, I think it's Maxon, if you want to like get this, and then you have to go through some monthly subscription, which is kind of a bummer, right? As you can see, it's working in the background, so I'm just gonna like let this work just to show you how this software works, right? In case you haven't seen any of my previous videos. Pretty much what I was doing, I was creating like cache files in the background. So when it says ready to synchronize, it pretty much kind of like analyze the audio and all that good stuff. So it basically created a cache file so it can like read the files better, right? So hit synchronize and you can see it work. All right, there you go. So usually sometimes there'll be clips that like won't be able to sync properly, which is like say one here. But for the most part, it's fine because what it does is like even though it's not synced up, usually it does keep everything in order. And in this case, whatever clip, I don't think you can zoom in here. Can you? I don't think you can. So if there's like a file that's out of sync, it kind of like follows like the file name. So if it's file name clip 001. The next clip that's out of sync will be 002, right? So it follows like a numerical order or the date depending on how your video footage got saved in the camera, right? So that's fine. Now, before I go any further, like I said, this software is pretty pricey and now you cannot buy it individually. You kind of have to get like a subscription with Maxon. Red Giant, I think it got bought out by Maxon, the same guys that do Cinema 4D, that kind of stuff. But the thing is, you cannot buy it by itself anymore. It's just kind of bullshit. Now basically it comes in a pack. Yeah, I think you need to get, I think it's Red Giant Complete. The Universe, this was just like transitions for Premiere Pro and some other software, but I think you need to get like the Red Giant Complete, add plan details, and here it goes Pluraleyes, it comes with it, but that's $50 a month, so it's kind of a bummer, right? But there are like software that you're able to find that's similar to it, right? Just Google Pluraleyes alternatives and you get like, some answers. And at the moment, from what I know, I guess one of the best ones is Syncsila. I mean, like I have not messed with any of these softwares. You have to do your own research. But when I looked into it, a lot of people bring up Syncsila a lot. You're able to get like a free version of it to mess with it. And then like you are able to like buy it at a one-time purchase to get a license, right? They can give you a free trial. You can mess with it. It works for Premiere Pro, Final Cut, DaVinci Resolve, Vegas, so on and so forth. And the good thing about this is like it comes with like a plan. So basically what that means, like depending on what tier you use, it kind of like gives you how many tracks you want to be able to like sync up. So if you're a person that uses a lot of tracks, you can get like the higher tier version to sync up a lot of tracks, right? I guess you could do a 6-month plan or lifetime plan. I don't know, but look into it. I'll try my best to make sure I put like a link in the description so you guys can look into it. But like I said, look up the alternative to Pluraleyes, because unfortunately, even though Pluraleyes is a good software, I think most of you are not willing to pay $50 a month for this thing, right? I spent too much time on this shit. So once this in is done exporting, you can hit export timeline. I uncheck move on synchronized clips to end. I'm gonna save this. Now I want to save this basically near my project file, right? So where I go to my Za Plas, I don't know, just type in sync, hit export, and it's gonna open the window. It's gonna open the file folder location. So that's pretty cool. So now in this case, I created a preset using an ingest preset, right? Now I already created this. If you guys don't know how to create an ingest preset with Premiere Pro, or I don't know if you guys are using it, basically all this does is let me show you the ingest setting here. If I click on this, I already created a ingest setting, which is create proxies. And basically what that is, it's a GoPro lossless quality that I use. That way, like the playback speed will be like very smooth and quick, right? Proxy files are very important, especially if you have a slow computer. My computer is pretty good, but still the problem is when you're messing with compressed footage that comes from a camera. Usually what's going on is when you get like footage from a camera, the camera is compressing the files, right? So basically what that happens now is that when you import the footage inside of your editing software, because it's a compressed format, your computer is trying to decode the compression, the compressed file format of the footage itself to play back. So sometimes your computer stutters when you try to play back a video. It's for that reason, you know, depending on the speed of your computer. It's doing more work than it needs to, right? So basically it's like decoding a compressed file format. So what I'm doing is basically creating a proxy that's not compressed, right? It's lossless. So the computer doesn't have to decompress anything. So like the playback speed is very smooth, right? And I'll show you what I'm talking about in a bit. So in this case, you know, like I said, like I can go to my project settings, I have the ingest, I can check this. And what this does is basically when I drop my footage inside of Premiere Pro, it's automatically gonna start creating the proxies, right? But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm not gonna do that because it's gonna take a long time, right? So I'm gonna check that, but for the most part, when I start a project, I have that on, right? But like I said, for this tutorial, I'm not gonna do that, just to save time. Now, from Pluraleyes, I created a sync file, and that creates an XML file. Basically, an XML file, it works as a blueprint for Premiere Pro to say, this clip goes in this section to match the audio in this section here. This other clip goes over here. So basically it works as a blueprint, right? So when you drop this inside of Premiere Pro, it's automatically gonna create a sequence for us. And it's gonna also import all the audio and the video footage that we used. Basically everything we dumped in here, both folders with like the footage and the audio, it creates an XML file. So when we drop it in here, it's gonna create a folder for us. It's gonna freeze up your computer a bit. So just give it time, give it time. It's gonna take a while. Meanwhile, I have some coffee. Now usually I put this in a folder first, but I kind of messed up. So I'm just gonna right click, put a new bit from selection and puts it all in there, right? So Za Plas, right? Now, like I said, see both cameras are here. It created a new track for us because I don't know, I guess one of the camera tracks was either like a different like frame rate or something like that. So it didn't match like the rest, right? So I'll probably create something separate for you, like a new folder, but it's fine. I still synced up the audio for us, and here's the audio. Everything's good. Now, usually with the audio, because Paul uses a lavalier mic, it's a mono. So what I want to do is I want to select these guys, right click, modify audio channels. And what I want to do is I want to create this, modify into a stereo. It just sounds better. Hit OK, you can get this shit. Hit OK. And now as you can see, it turned into a stereo. Now we have a left and a right track. It just sounds better. Now if we double click this, we get our footage here. Everything is all scattered, you know, to shit. But that's good. That's why we want it. With Paul's lavalier mic, what we do is that we always leave like the microphone on. We don't wait to turn the microphone on when we're about to film. It's just I personally asked Paul to do this. Leave the microphone on. That way, every time we turn on the camera, no matter how long the audio track is, we're basically using the audio track almost like a timeline, right? Like a timestamp. So every time we turn on the camera, basically the clips get synced up to like the audio here in the right place. So that's why we leave like the audio on for like a long extended periods of time. We could get like a long clip. Say like in this case, this one's 3 hours, right? But that doesn't matter, right? Because audio files are pretty small anyway, so it's no big deal. So yeah, but I use the audio track almost as a timeline or timestamp. So that way, when I sync it using Pluraleyes, the clips get synced up in the right areas, right? Now, as you can see here, here's the audio files, but these are stereo, right? These are not mono, so I have to update these guys. So what I do is make sure zoom in here, get towards the end. Again, select it, right click. I had to scroll down here a bit. Basically, you want to reveal in project. So basically, it's telling me, oh, it's all aha. So I'm gonna click and drag this, and I'm gonna just replace this. And there you go. So now it's a stereo, right? Zoom out a bit. I'm gonna do the same thing with this, guys. Select it, right click, and reveal in project. There's this one. Select it, replace that guy. Do the same thing with this guy over here. Oh, select it, right click, reveal in project. Select this guy and drop it just to replace it, right? So now it's updated. So it went from mono to stereo, right? Which sounds a lot better. Now, something to keep in mind here. Unfortunately, even though it did sync, there is a possibility that there's going to be a little bit of a drift, right? So I don't want to completely remove the audio. Even though it's synced, I still do not want to delete the original audio files, right? Because we may need to use them to sync up the footage a little bit better more down the line, right? So we want to make sure we save these audio clips before we completely delete them, right? But now if you can see here, everything's kind of a fucking mess, right? So what I want to do is, sometimes the link selection will be on. So if you select this, like it will select the audio, right? And I usually don't want that, because if I was to select this, and if say I want to move this, it's gonna like interrupt like the audio file from like the lavalier. So let me uncheck that. So I want to make sure this link selection is not checked. That way I can select the clips individually, and then I want to select the audio also. So I can move this down. I can select the audio, move that up a bit. Do these guys too. Move this down. Do the same over here. Everything's good here. Move that down here. And basically that's all I'm doing is I'm kind of like trying to like merge the layers down a bit. Make sure everything's more like organized, right? Make everything flat. Because, you know, everything can be a jumbled mess if you're not careful. I can select all these guys actually. Go up a bit and select this guy as well. Alright, so that's so far so good. Now usually when you get clips, say like this guy right here, I'll fix it in the sense of I'll just like select these guys and move up. I'll probably leave like the audio by itself. Usually these are like a close-up from the second camera, so it's not that big of a deal. So I'll probably like delete these guys because I don't need it. Move that down a bit. Move that up. So everything's more organized now. Say this one's over here. Do the same thing. Just move these clips here just to be on top. I'll delete these guys. I don't need that. This is mainly B-roll, so that's why I'm messing with that. Like that. So alright, everything seems to be more organized. That's better. I created a macro using my mouse here, my Corsair mouse. I used the IQ software, right, to create my macro. So basically what I do is that there's plenty of gaps here, right? So I mean, yeah, you could get the razor tool and can cut all this shit, but that's gonna take a long time. So I created a macro, which basically what it does is like kind of goes in between the gaps and does that. It's super quick, right? So I can just zoom out a bit, and with my macro, it does it instantly for me. Boom, boom. Macro, macro. Yeah, see, it's a lot fucking faster. So if you don't know how to use macros, definitely use a macro. Basically, a macro, all it is like you're recording like certain key operations into your software. So say if I was to use like the blade tool, I cut, go over here, I cut, then I go back, then I make a selection of like what I just cut, then I do a ripple delete. See, I did all that manually, but that took a lot of time. So everything I did there manually, I just recorded it into a macro. So now it does it instantly. And there you go. So it's, yeah, definitely a lot faster using macros. So definitely learn macros. There you go. So now just like that, with a few clicks of my macro keyboard and my mouse, I was able to like, clean up get rid of the dead gaps really quickly, right? So far so good, but I'm not completely done. Basically want to make sure that everything is synced up in order, right? So usually I'd say if I was to zoom in here in the timeline, there's always so much I'm able to zoom in. But there's a command, show audio time units. So instead of showing frame units, I see audio units, so I'm able to zoom in more. And as you can see here, everything's a little bit like out of sync, right? So what I can select is, yeah, it's the slip tool, right? I have it set to X on my computer. It's called the slip tool. As you can see here, after selecting the audio time units, I'm able to like zoom in a bit more to see how out of sync it is. So I'm able to like click And what this does is basically, let me zoom out. Let me zoom in here. So what I'm doing is the slip tool, what it does is like, if I was to like shift this with like the selection tool, it's gonna move the clip completely, right? But I'm using like the slide tool, and what that does is like, it moves the audio, but it keeps the clip in its place, right? See that? You can see like the waveforms. Let me zoom in a bit more. These guys over here. So if I want to like align these up more, I can actually click and drag wherever I want them. So you want to learn to use the slip tool. That's what I use, right, in Premiere Pro. So sometimes I'll go and I'll pretty much listen to make sure if like anything is out of sync, so I can sync it up first.
And a Ryzen 7 5800X. In part 1, I did a test of the...
Usually when you hear kind of like almost like a chorus sound, that's a sign that it's out of sync, right? So what you want to do is you want to kind of zoom in here, find a spot that you believe that's kind of like gives you a good visual of an audio spike. Say like these little spikes right here. Let's go here, zoom in here a bit more. For the most part, it looks like it's kind of fine. Maybe these guys here, you can just move it back a bit. It's very small.
This build, it's a water-cooled. In part 1, I did a test fit, as you can see, 800X. In part 1...
Oh, here's a good spot. You can see here kind of like how it's a little out of sync here, right? So we use the slip tool, kind of sync this up a bit more. A little bit better. Yeah, it looks good.
5800X. In part 1, I did an outside of the box.
Yeah, you can hear that it's like not out of chorus, because when it's out of sync, it sounds kind of like this.
I did an outside of the box.
Wait, that's too much. Let me zoom out.
5800X.
Let me try to zoom out, make it out of sync a little bit.
800X. In part 1, I did an outside of the...
Okay, that's extreme, but yeah, you hear like a slight chorus, almost like a little echoey sound when things are out of sync, right? I do that primarily when Paul is speaking towards the camera. In this case, when Paul is like just speaking behind the camera, I don't sync it up because there's no point. You don't see the lips, right? But especially when Paul is like speaking towards the camera, then I want to make sure like the audio is sync up pretty well, right? So I'll make sure I do that also. I go through like the project in its entirely. If there's a part where Paul's speaking towards the camera, I want to make sure that audio is synced up. So I do what I just showed you, right? I kind of like adjust the audio a little bit to make sure it's in sync. So when that is done, this is the next step I do. I select all the video clips, right click, and right now it's enabled, meaning that you can see it. So I'm just going to disable it, and all that does is basically you don't see it, so they're not on. Right? Simple enough, right? But the reason why I do this is because I'm going to export this into like a smaller file to use in time mode, right? So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go to File, Export Media, and I already created like a preset for this, right? In this case, I don't need good quality image because it's black, obviously. So I created something in an H.264 file format, something I call cookie cutter, because that's basically what I'm going to use this for. It's a cookie cutter, you'll see why. Well, you can see here the video settings are very low. The only thing that's going to high quality will be the audio, because I need the audio to be a high quality. That way the software time mode is able to detect the silence better, right? The only thing I disabled was like the video, but I do still need the video file layer for this to work properly. We need both the video layer and the audio layer, but I want this to render out quickly. That's why I disabled the video. So I'm gonna hit Q, and it's gonna like throw it over to Adobe Media Encoder. Yeah, it's just a lot faster, obviously, to use the Media Encoder, because that's what it's designed to do, right? All right, so I'm gonna make sure I put this in the right spot. I'm gonna search for my project file. Tutorials me Za Plas. Let's call this cookie cutter. Hit save, ready, hit play, and just let it do its magic, right? And because it's not in like an audio file, but as you can see here, this video clip is pretty long. It's over an hour. That's why I disabled like the video, right? I still, like I said, I still want like the video layer present. I just don't want to render out anything besides a black image. That way it just, instead of taking 10 or 15 minutes, it only can take 5 minutes here, right? All right, now that's done. So basically I'm gonna click on the file. Now this folder that I created, so basically this is just basically a black image, right? But it has the audio, which is what we want. Something that I started using also is TimeBolt, right? And TimeBolt is basically a good software that basically helps you delete all the dead space. So this is a good software. I'll put a link in the description for this as well. We're gonna get our TimeBolt software. Then we click what I call the cookie cutter file into this guy and let it work, right? I'll make a separate video on how to like get better results out of this software in the future, but for the time being, I'm just gonna go over it quick. Maximize that, expand this. So yeah, it does a good job. Like kind of detects like noise and all this stuff. Everything that's red is gonna get cut out because that's silence right here, right? Paul here is speaking, so it's gonna be left inside the video. Now, usually what I do here is I hit export XML, and that's gonna export export the XML file next to our render that we did recently, so it's right here, right? So I'll minimize that. Now usually what I do is just to keep everything organized, I'm gonna create a new bin. I'm just gonna call this time bolt. And usually in this case, I wanna make sure that the ingest setting is not on because I don't need it, right? I don't need to create proxies for this specific file. So I'll make sure that's off, hit OK. Now I'm gonna grab the XML file that I just created. I'm gonna drop it in here. Take a while. It created like a new sequence, double click that. And as you can see here, everything that's red, that's basically all the shit that gets deleted, right? Now when you have like a lot of clips, it doesn't really work that well because timebolt works better on individual clips, meaning if there was like a one long individual clip and you drop it inside of timebolt, it does a good job of like deleting the silence, right? But in this case, because there's a lot of individual clips from the camera, you know, from recording, stopping the camera, starting the camera, then stopping it, there's way too much individual clips, so it doesn't work that well, right? So what I do is basically, I export an XML file and everything that's red, I'm actually able to zoom in here. I can select this, go to edit, label, select label group, which is like the red label that selected the silence. So everything that's red is the silence, right? And since I already selected the red here, which is the silence, I can go to edit, label, select label group, and it's gonna select everything that's red here, right? As you can see here, everything that's red, that gets selected, right? So the cool thing is, go to edit now, copy, we go back to our sequence here, we go to the very beginning, right? Now we wanna make sure we paste this in an area that's not gonna like overlap anything here yet, right? So I wanna make sure that's selected over here. So there's nothing here and there's nothing here, right? So now I'm gonna go to edit and paste, boom. So the cool thing is, the way how I use this is basically, as I edit, as I go, I'm gonna use this information to cut out the dead space, right? Now for starters, I'm gonna start it here, right? Say like this section right here. I don't know, let's just say I put like a little marker there. So because in this area over here, I'm gonna select our video clips that we disabled, right click, go to enable, that way we can see them again. So basically what I'm gonna do now is, for the most part, this area here is just Paul talking, right? So everything in this clip is just Paul literally talking, right? But the difference is from this area, it's Paul mainly working. So I don't need to cut out any silence here because this is all time-lapse footage, right? But in this case, in the beginning of this video, there is areas where I need to cut out the silence, right? So what I do is basically, I select these guys here in the front, and I move down, 1, 2, delete. Usually, you know, obviously after I synchronize the audio, I don't need the camera audio anymore, so we can get rid of that. So we can just select these guys, which is only the silence from our video clip from timebolt that got selected. I move up, it deletes that, I hit delete. So now we have a bunch of space here, right? Now the cool thing with Premiere Pro is that there's a command that you're able to like delete any gaps, right? So instead of like say going here, selecting that, and then you want to like delete the gap, you don't need to do that because that'll take up a lot of time. So you select this, go to sequence, you go to close gap, and it does it for you, right? Now everything that was silenced, it got deleted using that method I just showed you, and basically I close the gap. So now if I play this back,
it's an epic water-cooled system. What's up, guys? I love intros. What's up, guys? Welcome back today.
All right, so obviously, you know, all this stuff I get cut out, but basically what I'm showing you is basically the moment where he pauses or he gets quiet, that gets deleted, right? So it makes it a lot easier for me to just select the stuff, do a ripple delete, and then just continue, you know, leaving the stuff that I need, right? But yeah, now when it comes to like me preparing my video, this is as far as I get. And then I'll leave this till like the next morning, right? I'll probably go in there and I'll delete all that silence and all that crap. Once I have that done, I'll save it. Then I'll wait till the next morning so I can go back to work, right? And finish this up. And that's basically how I get started with my projects, you know? Like every time I get a new project from Paul, I do this process to make my life a lot easier. That way when I can just wake up the next day, I'll just like roll out of bed, you know, I get my coffee and then start fucking editing, right? But yeah, so yeah, this is my Za Plas. So yeah, that's what I do on every video. You know, before I get started, there's a process, right? I gotta make sure I sync up the audio, I create my proxies, you know, I save everything right and accordingly. I make sure I get rid of all the silence and all that stuff. So I do all that before I actually start editing, right? And thankfully I got a lot of software that helps me do all that shit. And as you saw, it basically does it all for me. So if you're able to, when you're able to, use the software to your advantage is beneficial like a motherfucker, right? And yeah, I have, cause yeah, before I used to do all this shit manually, and goddamn, that's such a waste of time, right? So if you're doing something and you think, oh man, it'd be nice if there's a software that would do whatever to help you save some time, look for it. Most likely it's out there. That's how I found, that's how I discovered Time Bolt, you know, that deletes all the silence in your videos, right? So, but anyways, yeah, that's it. Za Plas, depending how you work, most likely you can figure out what works for you to get your video started, right? Either create like a project file with everything in it, you know, all your assets in one location, you know, creating your proxies, all that crap, you know, that's basically part of the process before you start to get editing. It makes life a lot easier before you start editing. Like I just show you, I don't just start editing right away. I got to get things done a certain way first before I'm able to start editing. So anyways, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. It was a bit long, I'm sure, but if you really like the video, I'll put some QR codes here. That way you guys can like help me buy a coffee. Really appreciate it. And yeah, that's all I got for you. More videos coming. Sorry that I lagged. I do want to make more videos. Just shit happens. But you know, it's all excuses in my head. Because you know, it is important for me to start growing my YouTube channel now. But I appreciate you guys hanging out and watching my stuff. So I'm definitely gonna focus more on getting more content out. So thanks again, guys. All right, take care and cheers.